Before the name, before the arenas, before the chains, before the rebellion that shook an empire, there was a man, not a myth, not a god, just flesh and fire, forced to kneel in a world that mistook silence for obedience. They called him a slave, a number, a beast to be broken. But they forgot. Even the caged Khan learned the shape of freedom by studying their prison. This is not the story Rome told. This is not the version carved into their marble. This is the truth, told from the blood, from the screams, from the eyes of the man they tried to erase. This is the story of Spartacus, and what it felt like to rise. Act 1. Chains of Rome. I wake to the sound of iron, chains grinding stone. The air smells of piss, sweat, and blood. But I don't gag anymore. I've learned to breathe through rot. My name. I had a name once. A wife. A home. Now, I'm nothing but a number. One among many. Sleeping on cold rock. Waiting for the next order to kill or be killed. And yet, I am not broken. There was a time before all this. Before Rome. Before they branded my flesh and tried to erase who I was. I remember Thrace. The way the grass would hiss in the wind like a whisper from the gods. I remember holding her, my wife, against my chest. Her laughter was the only sound louder than my heartbeat. I was free. I was proud. I didn't know that pride was the one thing Rome couldn't tolerate. The guards stomp down the corridor now. One by one, the cell doors creak open. The new ones, they scramble.
Please,
Shivering, crying, begging.
Beg you.
I don't move, I've learned. Stillness is power. They'll drag us out like animals, parade us through the mud. Some will be sold to mines, others to brothels. Me? I'm too dangerous, they say. I've killed before. So they throw me into the ludus, the gladiator school. You think fighting is about swords and strength. Number. It's about fear. Theirs, yours, controlling both. The ludus is not a school. It is a butcher's yard. We eat to fight, sleep to fight. Our trainers scream like gods, strike like hammers. They teach you one rule: kill well or die screaming. One boy wouldn't swing hard enough. The trainer laughed and broke both his arms. He didn't return the next day. If you're enjoying this so far, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I drop deep content like this every week, and trust me, it only gets better from here. At night I whisper to myself, not prayers, not anymore. Rome took my gods when they took my name. I whisper memories over and over, so I don't forget who I was. A soldier, a husband, a man. Because if I forget, then I am just what they say I am, a slave. In the dark we whisper, not to mourn, but to plan. Not all of us were born to die in the sand. Assyrian tells me, the Romans think this is entertainment. Let's show them blood is not a game. I say nothing, but in my heart I feel it. A small flame, waiting for wind. We are not ready. Not yet, but we will be. Days blur, bones break, men scream. I survive. They make us fight for scraps, laugh when we cut open old friends. The arena becomes a place where I smile, not from joy, but because every cheer from the crowd reminds me how soft they are. One day, they will choke on that applause. One night I find an old coin buried under the sand of the pit. It's worthless, corroded, but I keep it, because it reminds me of home. Because even a slave deserves to hold something that wasn't given by chains. I didn't know it then, but in a few weeks I would taste freedom again, not through mercy, but through rebellion. I would hold a sword, not as a performer, but as a man reclaiming his fate. They thought we were animals. They caged us, laughed at us, spit on us. But they forgot. Animals fight hardest when they've got nothing left to lose. End of Act 1. Chains of Rome. They chained my body, but not my will. Spartacus. Act 2. The fire inside me. They say Rome cannot be challenged, that its walls stretch to the gods, that its legions are unbreakable. But walls crack, and even gods fall when men refuse to kneel. The first sign wasn't a sword, it was a whisper. There's a kitchen storeroom with blades, not many, but enough. The guards drink at night, that's when we move. We don't need to win, just get out. I listened, not because I believed them, but because something inside me had been waiting for that whisper, waiting for a reason to become who I was meant to be. Fear whispered louder than hope. I thought of her, my wife, her face, her warmth. What if I died and never saw her again? But then I remembered something worse than death, living a life where your soul is already dead. So I said yes, not with words, with a nod. That night we stopped being slaves. There were about 70 of us. Different lands, different tongues, same pain. Crixus, the Gaul, wild eyes, fists like stone. Oenomaus, the Syrian strategist, calm but deadly. Gannicus, cocky, drunk, brilliant with a blade. Even the ones who could barely speak held the same fire in their eyes. We were not soldiers. We were wounded dogs, but dogs backed into a corner bite harder than lions. Every move had to look normal, every conversation casual. We trained in silence, practiced knots in the dark, timed the guard shifts like shadows dancing on the wall. One guard almost caught us. Crixus killed him with a training sword. Snapped the spine clean. We buried the body beneath the stables. That was the moment I realized. There's no going back. It rained again. Rome's gods must have felt uneasy. I couldn't sleep. Every sound felt louder, every breath heavier. I looked around at the men. Some whispered prayers. Others gripped makeshift knives made from spoon handles and broom shards. Me? I stared at the wall and whispered, if I die free. Then it happened. The guards opened the gate. Standard inspection. But we were ready. Crixus moved first. A blade through the throat. No scream, just blood. I leapt forward. Took the keys. Oenomaus grabbed the torch and shoved it into a barrel of oil. Fire. Smoke. Screams. Chaos. Men poured out like a tide of rage. We didn't run. We fought our way out. Now this feels like home. We didn't escape Rome. We escaped one piece of it. Into the hills we ran, dripping, wounded, breathless, but alive. Some men we lost. Some were too slow. One cried for his mother as he bled out. We buried them with our hands. No time, no markers, just dirt. But we whispered their names, because even in rebellion, we remember our dead. I sat that night on a rock, sword still in hand. I had no plan, no map, no army, just men who followed me because I had the eyes of someone who had already died once and come back sharper. They will come, said Oenomaus. They'll send legions. Then we'll bury legions, I replied. The truth is, we weren't fighting for revenge. We weren't even fighting for freedom. We were fighting so that no child would have to kneel in chains again, so that even if we died, Rome would remember our defiance. They called us rebels, terrorists, savages, but we were none of those things. We were men. That night, as the flames from the Ludus still flickered in the distance, I whispered to the gods who had long ignored me. You gave Rome the world. Now give me the strength to shatter it. They didn't answer, but the wind carried my words into the dark. And somewhere, I swear, the ground began to tremble. End of Act 2. The fire inside me. Freedom begins the moment fear dies. Spartacus. Quick pause before we get into the next chapter. If you're still watching, you're clearly built different. Tap that sub button and let's keep building. Act 3. Blood and honor. What began with 70 became hundreds. Men with nothing left. Farmers, thieves, broken soldiers, even women carrying children on their backs. They came not for me, but for what I represented. A life not owned, a death not on Rome's terms. We had no armor, no training, no legions, but we had fire. Crixus drilled the young ones. Oenomaus drew maps in dirt. Gannicus trained men to fight dirty. Groin kicks, neck stabs, blinding dust throws. We struck outposts, freed more slaves, took their food, took their weapons. Rome was quiet at first. They thought we were another flicker in the wind, but flickers become flames, and flames become infernos. A Roman patrol, 300 strong. They expected fear. What they found was fury. We ambushed from the cliffs, blocked their escape with burning carts, rained stones before steel. It was not a battle. It was a massacre. We left one survivor. We sent him back, not with words, but with a message carved into his shield. We were slaves. Now we are death. They started whispering my name in markets. Children played Spartacus and the legions with sticks. Roman soldiers began requesting transfers away from the south. The Senate called us a plague. They were wrong. We were a prophecy. But even fire needs to breathe. Some nights I walked alone, looked at the stars, wondered, what now? We won battles, but battles weren't freedom. We couldn't march forever. I thought of escape, to Gaul, to the sea. But Rome would never let us go. We weren't meant to live free. We were meant to die loudly. Crixus wanted full war. "Crush them before they regroup," he'd shout. Oenomaus warned patience. We can't win a war of attrition. And Gannicus, he just wanted wine and women. I stood between giants with blood on their hands and rage in their hearts. I wasn't a king, I wasn't a god, but they looked to me like I was both. Rome sent Crassus, not a soldier, a calculated butcher in a senator's robe. He didn't chase us. He baited us, built walls, not of stone, but of fear, cut off our food routes, bribed our allies, and when he struck, it was with precision. We lost 200 in a single night, the first time I saw men retreat under my name. Something inside me cracked. I found a child among the dead, no more than 7, holding a broken toy sword carved from wood, his eyes wide open, lifeless. I knelt, held him, and I wept, not as a warrior, not as a leader, as a man who thought he could beat fate. That night I addressed the camp. We didn't come this far just to win battles. We came to rewrite destiny. Rome fears us not because we kill, but because we exist. They cheered, but I saw the doubt in their eyes, the question they didn't ask. How much longer can we run? Word spread that Rome was bringing everything. Crassus, Pompey, legions upon legions. I looked across the fire at the faces of those who followed me. Scarred, starving, proud. We had no home, but we had each other. And I would not let Rome erase us from the earth. If we were to die, we would die loud. We would die standing. The sky that night was black, no stars. The fire cracked low. I whispered to myself, tomorrow is not promised, but if we fall, let it shake the heavens. And somewhere in the dark, I swear, the gods looked down and held their breath. End of Act 3. Blood and honor. We were not fighting to live forever, only to be remembered. Spartacus. Act 4. No chains in death. The air was different, still heavy. Even the wind seemed to wait. Rome was coming, all of it. Crassus, Pompey, 6 legions, 15,000 men, steel sharpened for our throats, and we were tired, starving, wounded, but we stood. I looked at the faces around me. Men who had buried their sons. Women who had picked up swords when no one else would. Children who had learned to run before they learned to read. I didn't give them hope. I gave them truth. They will write lies about us. They will call us savages. But history forgets cowards and remembers the ones who stood when standing was suicide. We will not be remembered for chains. We will be remembered for the sound we made when we broke them. The Romans came like a wave, perfect lines, polished armor. We met them with rage, screams, blood, dust so thick you couldn't see your own hands. Crixus fell first, a spear through the gut. He kept swinging with it inside him. Oenomaus was surrounded, killed 7 before falling to his knees. Gannicus laughed as he cut a commander's throat. "Tell Jupiter I sent you!" Then he vanished into the smoke. I fought like death itself. Every breath was pain, every swing, a scream. They stabbed me once. I didn't feel it. Twice, I kept going. Then, a blade tore through my leg. I fell. I crawled through the mud, clutching my sword, bleeding from places I didn't know I had. But I never let go of the steel. The sky spun above me. I saw her face again, my wife, laughing, spinning barefoot in the fields of Thrace. I reached for her. My fingers clenched, nothing but mud. A Roman soldier stood over me. He didn't speak, just raised his blade. I didn't beg, didn't flinch. I looked him in the eye and said, "You may kill Spartacus, but you will never kill what he became." The sword came down. Then, silence. No cheers, no trumpets, just the sound of wind moving through a field of corpses. They say they never found my body. Some say I escaped, some say I burned with the rest. But it doesn't matter, because I am not bones, I am not ash. End of Act 4. No chains in death. Slaves die silent. We died shaking the heavens. Spartacus. Epilogue. The legacy. I am the crack in the empire's marble, the whisper in a slave's ear, the fire that never dies. They wrote history in ink, but I wrote mine in blood. And long after Rome is dust, they will still remember my name. Epilogue. The legacy. Empires fall, but legends echo. Spartacus. In the ashes of forgotten kingdoms, a storm rises from the steppes. Next, Genghis Khan. The world never saw him coming. To be continued.